DeepSeek roll through and change the game.
We have models so powerful, we can't show them to the light of day or the Terminator comes.
There's a real security issue.
To shell out $97 billion for something like OpenAI.
I mean, China, they're affecting everything AI right now.
DeepSeek, they didn't really make a new model.
Does the market know like what their secret sauce was?
We're watching things unfold that impact the human race. Oh, today's a big day. Episode 3.
Hello, friends.
Hello.
We got Andrew and Sean. They happened to be around. We pulled them in quite last minute. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Kicking and screaming.
Happy to be here.
Really appreciate it. First podcast experience as a participant?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. First of many, hopefully.
Yes.
Aw.
Well, let's see what
We'll see how it goes.
Let's see what goes down.
Guest starring reappearance.
It's like ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
Trev, we got like a ton to cover.
20 topics.
I mean, China basically, they're affecting everything AI right now. We kind of got to talk about that, I think. Are you very excited right now? Or are you very worried? What would you describe as the
Regarding
feeling?
China or just in general? Like my current emotional state?
As it relates to the content matter of this podcast?
Oh, so
AI.
DeepSeek. What about DeepSeek? What about
Yeah.
China? We're talking about Quen.
Let's talk
About
about,
Alibaba.
well, Alibaba, I think, is the juggernaut.
Yeah, so let's go right for the meat.
Let's do it.
Okay. People are nervous. For a long time, I think Americans have been used to new things being from America. And for the first time, it wasn't. And what DeepSeek did, which was really, really good, but I wouldn't call it like a new technology or breakthrough.
Did
but
you know
really
about
good.
it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, it's before the press put it up, it was out for about a week.
Like you knew about it,
Yeah.
and but you didn't see it coming.
I mean, you know what's interesting about it is I think let's take a step back. What did they do?
Let's talk about
makes
that.
Them,
Yeah,
like,
let's
that
open
makes
that
people
up.
interested for a moment, right? So for a very long time, people said, "Oh, I've poured dollars and dollars and dollars into something. I'll get a better model."
It's literally it.
And DeepSeek said, "You could do it for like $50
Less.
Nah, I think they claims 9 million, and then there's a lot of like people who are calling like BS on the number. And they're saying like it was probably like 500 million, and there's like this weird like psyop thing of like did China lie to us?
Like,
course,
who
right.
validates that even? Who's
Exactly,
who can regulate
right?
that?
But the claim is they can do a model for much cheaper, and it can be as competitive or better than all the Western models.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, and that I think is an esoteric sort of like feeling for an
but
American.
I mean, like, listen, we saw it with manufacturing of goods. Like, this is not a new thing,
true,
right? Like, if you can manufacture a good in China, get it shipped to the United States, and it's at a fraction of the cost. Yeah, I think there potentially is a threat. I perceive it though less around, oh my gosh, OpenAI and Anthropic really have a problem, and now they need to solve it from an economic standpoint. I think of it more as like there's a real security issue, like a very real censored. Where is the information going? How can you trust it?
Oh yeah.
Where does this lead us?
Our last podcast, we talked about bias.
That's right.
We talked about sort of the influence these things can have and you not realizing it. And just so happened, like, a week later, 2 weeks later, whatever it was.
We see DeepSeek roll through and change the game.
And you ask it like, is Taiwan a country?
Right, exactly.
And it's gonna be like, well,
right.
I don't know want to answer you right now, right?
Exactly.
It's got
Let's talk about something else.
Yeah, it's got a whole bunch of like bias sort of like built in. Just imagine for a moment that like that was a model you used, and what if under the covers there's a lot of things that it pushed you towards, or
Right.
answers it gave you? Like, how would you truly know? And maybe it's like nuanced ways of asking the question or providing you input. Like, how do you really?
Is
know?
it still that biased now? Even the weeks after it's launched and it
Does it
hit the
change?
world. But I'm saying like so many people are talking about, well, it doesn't even say Taiwan's a country, right? Has that changed, or is that still
Same
how
thing.
it would
No,
respond?
they didn't release a new model. Once
yeah.
you release a model,
That's it.
It's out there.
Ah.
It's static. Like you can't get. You make a new model.
No, the only real reaction was instead of it being available to everyone in the App Store, they restricted downloads. So it was more on the DeepSeek side than it was folks influencing them.
So I mean, I think what the interesting thing to me is it brought reasoning models
Yeah.
to the forefront. And OpenAI has had a reasoning model for actually quite a while. They had what's called O1.
Yep.
It was just ungodly expensive, and slow as all hell. Like you give it a request, and kind of like you go to the bathroom and come back, and it's still going.
Right.
Right. DeepSeek is wicked fast. It's way cheaper. It gives probably better output, quite honestly.
As of today, February 11th, has OpenAI now released
yeah.
new? They have. Their reasoning model has.
03.
It is 03 now.
Yeah.
It's as good, if not better, than DeepSeek.
No, I'd say it's worse still.
It is.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
still think
that's
it's-
significant.
Some people.
And still costly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
In comparison.
Comparison.
For sure.
Yeah.
And to be clear, DeepSeek's been around for a while. It was the R1 model they rolled out that
Yeah, that's the new one.
really changed it.
Yeah, they did a lot of models around software, like coding
Yep.
models that were really good for a long time. They were always considered like middle high of the pack. This is the first one where they just like they knocked it out of the park type of thing, and people took notice.
Do you think, Trev, like, as we're talking to customers about their selection of an LLM as it relates to an AI solution that we're deploying or have already deployed, do you think DeepSeek is really going to be a conversation we still have in a month from now?
No,
What's the reason? Like, what's your gut tell you?
for the same reason why everybody loved GPT-4,
Yep.
and then they liked Sonnet 3.5, and then they liked O1 when right now it's DeepSeek, and it's 4 months from now, there's gonna be another thing.
That's the nature of technology, though. It disrupts itself. New models come along, new ways of thinking. And I think with DeepSeek, it was just a different way of doing things that they unlock the code, right? And you can do it possibly for cheaper. And I think it's taking everyone a while to digest that. Like even if you look at the market reaction to it, which was wild on that day, they'd actually published the paper a week earlier.
Yeah.
And it was, through the weekend, people digesting, thinking through it. All right, what does this mean for insatiable GPU appetite for NVIDIA? That it kind of ticked that domino and the whole market reacted. And so I think, we're still kind of digesting what that actually means.
I'll give you an optimist take. So DeepSeek didn't really make a new model. They distilled a model. They took an existing model, like stonework, and they chipped away at it into an amazing sculpture. But someone made a big block of concrete or stone at one point, right? And so they're getting a lot of credit for really squeezing the juice out of something good that existed already. That doesn't mean it's not worth making the next big piece of stone that you want to, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't, to me, what they did was really great from a sort of how do you optimize and be efficient and like use your money and time more efficiently. But I don't think it discredits the GPU hungry we need for the next piece of stone we need.
Yeah, whether it's Michelangelo or Bernini, we still need marble.
Yes.
Got it.
Or Jensen.
Does the market know like what their secret sauce was?
Yeah, they
to
published
drive
it.
the cost. So they just
You have to,
here it
right?
is. They have to.
They have to.
Publish it.
They don't have to, but they did.
I mean, that's normal, right?
No, Anthropic doesn't really publish. OpenAI doesn't really publish.
Nova did.
GCP, not really. No, they published. They published like, let's say you're making dinner.
Yeah.
And they said we use chicken.
Right.
How much?
Right.
What size? What shape? They neglected all that stuff. So they publish enough.
Which is normal.
Yeah, I mean, people just don't trust you unless you do.
Yeah.
But to protect IP, they don't give you everything. Versus DeepSeek gave you everything.
Well, largely because of the fact that it was known to be that if it was open to everybody, it could get better. I presume.
It's also not their business model.
Right. It's a different business model.
They're a hedge fund.
Literally.
As opposed to OpenAI, an alleged nonprofit.
Right. And now imagine you're a hedge fund and you do puts on NVIDIA and then you release the thing. You know what I mean? Like they have a different kind of incentive.
That's fascinating, man.
But it's a wicked good model. I can show it to you if you want.
Let's take a look.
Sure.
What do we got to lose?
So
What do you want to show?
I got Perplexity up. Do you guys familiar with Perplexity?
I don't think half of our audience will be. So I think doing a good overview of
Okay.
Perplexity.
They may
and
know
why-
it's the one that searches the web, right?
Yeah. I think of it like, you know how Google's doing the whole like Gen AI answers right now? And they're like not that great. Okay. This is like the way better version of it.
Right.
And so you can ask questions of it. It then scans a whole bunch of websites and things and videos and YouTube and more. And then it gives you like sources cited answers of all the material. I use it all the time. I think it's way better from Google in most cases when I just need an answer to a problem. But
Mhm.
if I need to figure it out myself, I still go to Google. it's free to a certain limit, and then you got to pay if you want. Like, so like DeepSeek, for example, is a paid feature. I have a paid account. This is Perplexity. You can come in here. You can define which model you want to use. In this case, I'm using DeepSeek's R1. And they have Elon Musk led group bids for OpenAI. So if I click the thing, I don't know what it's actually going to do. And it created, they also have pages. So they made a page. This is a bad example. I'm going to do it myself. Did Elon Musk offer to OpenAI? You hit go, you'll notice that it's going to start researching all the material online.
That's right.
This is
Our
our
news. Yeah.
And this is the R1 going. It's thinking through the problem. It's a reasoning model.
And it shows you its work.
Yes, along the way. And then when it's done, it compiles the final answer that's most appropriate, right?
Can these results be influenced the way like websites can influence search results on your traditional searches, like SEO? Is there an SEO
Yes.
way to manipulate these results?
Yes. There's like active discussions in the marketing field right now around like there's like SEO tags you can put on websites. They're doing like AI or agent tags.
Oh, specific for this.
Yeah. For systems like this to say like, oh,
Really?
what's this thing over here and how could you influence that? But the cool thing about the reasoning model about both DeepSeek and O1 is you can see along the way how it considered its answer, right? And I think that's sort of a unique aspect of it compared to other models.
DeepSeek's under the covers of this?
Yeah.
Particular search? Just like you could bring in Nova.
Not in
or other
Perplexity, but yes.
What's that?
Not in Perplexity.
What is Perplexity open to?
They provide Llama models.
Oh.
They provide Claude, GPT, and now DeepSeek, and then they have their own called Sonar.
Where would a customer leverage this, you think, in the future? Where is this super powerful?
So,
Like what kind of use case would lend itself well? Because as you know, I mean, the majority of the use cases we're seeing in small to mid-sized businesses and the startups that we work with, they tend to be customer service oriented, process oriented, cost cutting oriented. In truth, most of the use cases we see, they're not heavy data solution sets.
yeah. I'll give you a real example. We had a customer here in the office last week.
Mhm.
They're a nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
One of their biggest struggles is finding companies that like they manage grants. So finding companies to give grants to in New York State, right? It's like they have to research. They have to be like, do you want a grant? Like, and they have to find the right persona and the profile. And they have an entire team. It takes them hours and oodles of time
Research
to do
folks.
that.
Yeah.
This is perfect for them. They can be like, I need a company of X size shape that does this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And hypothetically, this can go out just like an agent could,
Right.
right? On the internet, find the appropriate company type.
And really
answer.
not building anything custom for the customer. This is more offer Perplexity as a software solution.
Yeah. There's also open source packages that
tie into it.
replicate. You can make your own Perplexity.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we could host a Perplexity if we wanted to.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Mhm.
And you limit it to certain sites, certain data sets.
You probably could. Yeah. I haven't looked into it, but probably.
That's cool.
So you said you didn't think that like the DeepSeek moment, which some have equated to like a Sputnik moment famously, that it's going to be long-term disruptive. Is that because you think other models are going to catch up that people are more familiar with? Or is it more around like the data privacy issue of it being, very closely backed by like the Chinese?
The former. So the models. So Amy, even this week, there's probably been at least 10 new models that have come out that replicate the DeepSeek process, like open source models.
So it's become the norm.
It's just the training method has been already replicated.
Has commoditization happened that fast?
Yeah. That's why when I talk to customers, I'm like, AI is a commodity. Doesn't matter what you think of it. Like it is, you can buy it for the same price of rice. You know what I mean? And so your new model came out. It looks super interesting. It's still the price of rice.
So how are these companies differentiating themselves?
So the model companies, I don't think are as much, to be honest with you, anymore. Like you can swap a GPT model for a Claude model with probably no effort, to be honest with you.
Oh, it is that easy now.
Yeah. Like there's little nuances, but
course.
it's not like.
So then what's the incentive for Musk and his investment consortium to shell out $97 billion for something like OpenAI?
I mean, so OpenAI, just like Tesla, has a lot of promises, right? So they have the whole like AGI, like we have models so powerful we can't show them to the light of day or the Terminator comes. Like that's the kind of like their. So of course we can't tell you. Like so, there's a thing there of the sort of illusion of sort of grandeur. Is OpenAI worth 97 billion? Like I'm not the one to judge that, but my personal take is like probably not, right? Type of a thing. There's also like Musk just wants it to kind of like stick it to them type of a thing. So he'll probably pay more just for that opportunity. In terms of like you're asking, do AI model companies have a moat?
Yeah, that's a better way.
Right? I don't think so anymore.
Maybe they did a year ago, or certainly a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I give credit to Meta. Meta
You think they
ruined the market
they
for
flipped
them.
the script? Really?
Because
By
DeepSeek's
making
built on top of Meta Llama models,
Llama,
right?
right.
Like
Yeah.
Llama models come out every so often. Like they're just as good. You can host them yourself. Like they kind of just cratered that business model, and they said whoever owns ultimately the data that builds the
Yeah.
models themselves wins, and they own. OpenAI doesn't own the data. Meta does. Alibaba does, right? Like Google does. Microsoft doesn't. Right? Maybe a little bit, right? Amazon, not a whole ton. Maybe e-commerce data, but not the rest. So there's a shift in power, effectively. The moat is the data set.
So do they all train on the same data sets?
Yeah,
Or in this case, like train on each other's data?
both. There's nuances to that too, but yeah, short answers.
I loved OpenAI's commercial during the Super Bowl the other day. I thought that was very interesting. One of the things that I was left with watching the commercial landscape during the Super Bowl was there was a lot of healthcare, more than I remember in recent times. And thinking about the advertising space and where necessarily we may or may not be headed, one of the things that's striking to me, and I think it's also because of the fact that our customer base is very much healthcare centric when it comes to these technologies. I'm really excited for what's to come with quantum. And you and I have had a little bit of discussion about this. This idea that a large language model is a really good thing to help solve a very particular business need. Doesn't necessarily need to be nuanced, can be general, can also be nuanced, but traditionally we see that LLMs are in a position to help us build a solution for a customer that solves a customer service related matter or some kind of cost savings measure. And what I kept thinking about while watching the Super Bowl, and I kept seeing ads for healthcare, and the fact that these healthcare organizations are literally advertising that they're going to do things like cure cancer. Now, where 10 years ago, you would never see an advertisement for that. And it's powered by these massive data sets, the evolution of genomics, just as a sector, health sciences in general, now being able to leverage much bigger tech to solve worldly problems, like the biggest problems that affect the world. That to me is the more exciting part of this, where when I have a conversation with somebody, like they'll not be in our tech sector and they'll just be like, so what do you think about AI? Like, it's really interesting. And we still all think about it as like a chatbot, but we're really starting to now think and watch companies spring up out of nowhere that are solving really big problems and starting to scratch the surface at some of this, where in our lifetime, we'll likely, God willing, see a cure for cancer. Like, that's remarkable. It's just absolutely remarkable. And it's the tech that we're all involved with. And I am so struck by that. It's one of those moments for me, it's certainly in my career, where I'm reminded that it's just such a great time to be alive and in this space, because we're watching things unfold that will, impact the human race.
Yeah.
Do you, because you're very much in the weeds on a lot of this, do you have those moments where you think about it similarly, like,
I have a very negative take.
damn?
I have like an existential crisis comparison.
I think it's a really good perspective to share. Where do you find yourself in some of your thinking around it?
I'll give you two examples of good and the bad. So a good, we did a project for a company that I don't think we can name
Mm-hmm.
offhand. They want to test proteins. That's what it was, protein sequences. And the issue they had was there's only so many types of sequences they could figure out of a genome, right? To go test against. It takes a lot of compute to get there.
A ton of compute, I'm sure.
So we fine-tuned an LLM
Yep.
that understands genomics and could spit out thousands of genes effectively and put it through what's called AlphaFold. That's a validator of genetics. That was a sort of monumental point for that company because now their bandwidth of checking is tenfold. Right. So to your point of like, can we find something faster? If we go 10 times faster,
right? Why
couldn't we? A 100-year problem turns into a 1-year problem or 10-year problem, whatever it is.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm with you there. Like, I think there's aspects that I'm excited for.
And you see that.
Yeah.
Today in the work that we do.
That's our project.
You recognize it.
So where's the pessimism coming from?
Okay. I also think it exacerbates lazy people.
Oh, okay.
I'll give you an internal example. We built systems, right? And we automated so much of that process with multiple agents to the point where people were not even thinking about the problem anymore. And they were just accepting whatever the AI gave because it looked so compelling. It had so much detail, it had so many reference points. It was so good that they didn't think about it. And there was a couple of scenarios where we put content out into the world and the person who put it out in the world didn't truly understand what they did.
Exactly.
Right. And to me, we had to add friction to our own process to enable people to stop and critically think about what they're about to do.
But that was a choice. We didn't have to do that,
Yeah,
but we needed to do it.
But we're experts in this.
Exactly. Right.
Imagine just like any company or a startup who does a thing, who doesn't understand that nuance of a human.
Probably happens all the time.
So the the existential crisis for me is, are you going to enable people to be so lazy that they don't know how to critically think about a problem, and ultimately you put a whole bunch of crud into the world?
Yeah.
That scares shit out of me.
I think it's a really good fear to have. I think it's super pragmatic. What inspires you about it though? Like what you said you noticed obviously the significance of it. Where do you draw from the inspiration? Where do you have the moment where you're lying in bed, you're thinking about this and you're like, damn, we're just scratching the surface. And there really is a great opportunity here.
You know, there's a lot of marketing hype, right? About agentic this and AI that,
right.
And
quantum.
But they take it to such an extreme. They say things like what Satya said, there's no like SaaS won't be a thing anymore. I actually don't I just disagree.
That was a really provocative statement.
Because but it's all the way of like it's in the deep end.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And like the probability of that being real, I feel is so low that I kind of questioned why he even said it to some extent. But even, on the other end, an LLM making summaries for you is just like so pedantic. Right. I think reality is going to be there's a lot of typical jobs and roles and functions and more that we just sort of expect a person to do that in reality they don't have to do anymore for good or bad.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll go out on a limb and say like 40 to 50% of things we probably do every single day are probably going to be irrelevant in 10 years.
Fair enough. I mean,
new things will come along. Technology kind of always does that, right? Where you think it.
Do you think your kids will drive? Like, do you think your kids will know how to drive?
I'm going to force them to, so yes.
But do you think there's going to be an automobile for them to drive that won't drive for them? That's really the question. Your kids will be driving in 10 to 12 years.
Yeah.
5 years out, so probably.
Unless you put them in a self-driving car, right? In 5 years from now that literally can drive them.
Yeah, if legislation catches up, it's interesting to see where the bottlenecks are, whether it's on the technology side or the governmental legislation side. Seems like that's the one that's really slowing down a lot of the autonomous drivers.
Yeah.
But you go to San Francisco and you see Waymos all over the place.
Time. Right.
In a very difficult environment. Yet, states like Kansas, maybe you don't see that, right? They haven't figured it out.
I think if kids grow up today, in 10 years, don't know how to physically drive a car, know how to get in a car and know how to tell the car where to go and get them out.
Look at manuals.
Yeah. There you go.
Not even a thing anymore. Really.
Not even a thing
It's
anymore.
a specialty. You want a manual? It's
Super
special.
weird. Yeah.
It's very true.
Yeah, you pay more for a manual now versus it used to be. Way
That's
more
true.
for
Well,
reverse.
theft insurance. It's harder for your car to be stolen.
Yeah, it's true.
People don't know how to use it.
Fair.
I'm interested in the quantum thing.
Yeah.
So, we've heard of the power of quantum computing. Google had a really big breakthrough where they were able to announce, their quantum processor. So, the market kind of responded by hyping up all these quantum stocks. And then, the NVIDIA CEO, Jensen, came out and said, hey, we're so far off on that.
Yeah.
And then just erased trillions of dollars, or at least, billions of dollars of market cap, and basically halved all those stocks because it's so far out, right? Was his view.
I agree.
I think in technology, there's always this thing of you talk about how take Gen AI, for example. A lot of things that we're saying is now commonplace. 2 years ago, no one was even talking about. So in some ways, it moves faster than we think. And in other ways, it's a lot slower. If you were to ask all of our parents and or grandparents what they thought about the future of transportation, like a question you had,
Exactly. Yeah.
they said we'd be flying in cars.
Right,
We'd
sure.
be walking on the moon. And that hasn't happened. So with quantum, it'll be interesting to see how it really plays out. If there will be, a quiet period, and then all of a sudden they'll have an OpenAI moment where it becomes commonplace, or whether, that may be something for our kids' generation, but not necessarily for us.
So, funny thing, my mother, who is nearly 70, she texted me the other day. She goes, "What's this DeepSeek thing?" And that's like, I knew.
for real?
That's like, all right, this is now like it's like the Facebook moment. Like, I'm going to leave Facebook.
Yep.
Quantum is interesting, but I agree with Jensen that it's super far off. I'll give you the clearest example I have of part two. The first is IBM and Google in particular have been working on this thing forever.
Yeah.
Forever, right? IBM did a breakthrough, and then some startup beat them. So there's some weird awkwardness as to how much effort people are truly putting into the tech, I feel like. The second is when it moves a photon from point A to point B, that's what quantum's doing, to basically to replace like a light emitting diode, right? You can do it on a quad scale instead of a binary scale. You can do a quad, so you can do quadruple effectively, maybe more. They can only do it for so much time before it degrades. And so think about making a language model or something that takes weeks of processing. Maybe it won't take weeks, maybe it will take days of processing in a quantum process, but it only runs for an hour. Like it feels like it's way far off before it's stable.
Yeah. The only reason I brought it up earlier was coincidentally yesterday there was a major breakthrough. Oxford University, they achieved teleportation. Like that's crazy to even see in a headline. So
It's
I had
Marvel Comics type stuff.
I thought it was clickbait because I was like, what is this? And what was cool is they were able to create they performed quantum mechanics between three computers, where one computer was ultimately controlling other computers. And again, I look at this and they credit the certainly the physical layer at the silicon and where it is today and the innovation today, but also just the fact that this stuff is our knowledge is compounding and getting better. So I agree with you, Trav. Like we've been talking about it for a long time. I just wonder how much and the pace of innovation, how much faster this will continue to move, and then ultimately what it influences. It's a big reason why I love what we're seeing with AI, because it's moving everything along with it. Like we see customers migrate more to the cloud because of AI. We see customers think of data differently just because of AI, right? Like, and that's a good force.
Yeah.
And I think DeepSeek is a great example of we're seeing things happen now with the American-based LLMs that maybe we wouldn't have seen as quick. So it's the story of innovation, but it's been good. Any lasting thoughts, Shawnee?
I'm just glad that your pessimistic view was only as bad as what you said. I was thinking like Skynet, Terminator stuff.
I mean,
like,
PC. We'll see. I mean, there's like drones and
Yeah,
things,
yeah.
right? They have like guns and things. So there's a, There's more to uncover.
No, this is
Spaceballs.
great. It's and I got to check out that teleportation thing that not made my feed yet. So.
It's pretty remarkable. Anything to add, Andrew?
No, this is great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Thanks
Thanks
to
for
be
coming
here.
on. Really appreciate it. Trav, as always, thank you, my friend.
See you, Justin.
See you.